Hey, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of today's show, Logically Leftist. I am joined by the great Jesse Dollemore. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm thrilled. I'm very excited that you gave me the invite. It's nice to raise my profile and not slum it on my own channel. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a good time.
Yes, it's gonna be a lot of fun. You know what else is fun? Making fun of JD Vance. I still haven't gotten over
fun, but very, very easy. Too easy.
I haven't gotten over the couch thing. So
Neither does he.
I'm pretty sure. So let's start out with making fun of him by showing Donald Trump snubbing his vice president. So, did President Donald Trump snub his VP? His second VP, by the way, because we remember what happened to the first.
Do you view Vice President J.D. Vance as your successor, the Republican nominee in 2028?
No, but he's very capable. I mean, I don't think that I think you have a lot of very capable people. So far, I think he's doing a fantastic job. It's too early. We're just starting.
But by the time you get to the midterms, he's going to be looking for an endorsement.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that this has been the greatest opening, almost 3 weeks, in the history of the presidency.
It's definitely been the fastest and the most stuff happening.
Well, we've done so much so fast.
Jesse?
Yeah, look, a couple of things. I actually talked about this today as well on my channel, and the thing I didn't address that I just realized, it just struck me, is that not only is he betraying JD Vance and JD Vance sold his soul and all of the things I previously mentioned, what just dawned on me was JD Vance isn't ready for prime time. He doesn't think JD Vance is ready or able to be president of the United States. Otherwise, why would he pick him to be the vice president and then say, well, there's a tremendous number of very capable people out there, rather than, I picked the guy who is absolutely the best choice to be vice president. And by virtue of that, and according to the 25th Amendment, next in line to be president. It blows my mind.
That is those are good points right there. But more, I was thinking more of like Trump just picked JD Vance out of like, this guy's going to be loyal to me. I got something on him. And so, the loyalty. But here's the funny thing, though, right? Oh, he's done a fantastic job. At what? Taking a back seat to Elon Musk?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a remarkable thing that we're witnessing in this second term. Obviously, Donald Trump demands fealty and loyalty, and that you bend the ring and you bend the knee and you kiss the ring, whether that be the one on his finger or the one between his ass cheeks. I don't know what he really prefers, but it is a strange thing to see a vice president, which is largely a ceremonial position historically anyway, give zero agenda, no marching orders. There's nothing in the portfolio of interest or action for JD Vance. It's just, hey, follow along and tweet support of Elon Musk, who effectively is the actual vice president of the United States.
Pretty much, or you could argue that he's the actual president at this point, because he's doing a lot of the work while Donald Trump is going around on the cable news circuit, over in right-wing media. But I don't know, So again, the question is it really is this a snub, or is there something darker at play? Because that's the other thought that I have, is there is that talk that Donald Trump's not going to leave. All right, you're going to go for a third term.
Yeah, well, it's certainly interesting that when given the chance to talk about, because Bret Baier was desperate for him to stay on topic, as all of these people are. They really give him every opportunity to lead him to water, and the horse just ain't going to drink. It's, hey, well, in the midterms, midterms are going to be coming up real quick, and JD Vance is going to want an endorsement to try to put together a campaign apparatus, to try to get together a funding apparatus to run for president. And Donald Trump, rather than just address it at all, says, I've done tremendous, so good. I'm so good. So I don't know. I think that Donald Trump acted out of some strategery, to pull a George W. Bushism, and or actually, I think that's Will Ferrell making fun of something he didn't actually say, but I don't think it's something darker in the mind of Donald Trump. If anything, it's like the Project 2025 dum-dums have given him ideas about who could be next, and he doesn't want to step on those toes. I think that's very, very likely. I don't know if I would call that something darker or a strategy move, but certainly there's somebody in his mind when he doesn't want to overtly endorse JD Vance to be the next president.
Well, certainly it'd be darker for the country, whoever is on his mind. That said, it does kind of remind me of, like, you know, the Democrats, they did not give Kamala Harris nearly enough time to run a campaign. Okay.
Yeah.
And so Joe Biden, you know, refused to step down for a very long time. Okay. And hand over, you know, the reins to Kamala Harris. And obviously, I do believe that had a quite a negative impact on her campaign. Okay. Because she didn't have enough time. And then, of course, you bring in the consultants and things like that. You know, they were doing very, very well for what little time they had, especially after the Tim Walz pick, which I thought was fantastic. And I'll go to bat for him any day. Okay.
Sure.
Excellent choice. Just calling Republicans weird, you know, going on that. And that's actually when their numbers were really far up. But so, you know, they did the best with the time that they had, but they did not have a lot of time. Trump
let me mildly push back. They did as well as they could with the moment that they had, until they started giving primetime speaking slots to Republican and trying to run as a Republican light party. Look, there's a myriad reasons why Donald Trump won and then Kamala Harris lost. It's not one particular thing, but I know I was at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Brittany Page and I were, and I was furious that so many primetime prominent spots were given to Republicans. Yeah. And they were trying to appeal to so many Republicans rather than appeal to Democrats. So that's the only mild, maybe I agree, but
that's not even a mild pushback, because I 100% agreed with that. So I guess I just phrased it poorly. They start
to your point though, absolutely. There's a ramp. There's an on-ramp time that needs to be given to a candidate to be president of the United States. I mean, after all, Donald Trump announced his re-election bid days after he won the election in 2016. So it's right. You do need that much time, and he's clearly not in it to give JD Vance enough time to win.
Yeah, and that just leads me to another question, right? And maybe it's too soon to ask, but we are doing some speculation here. I mean, where does the party go without Donald Trump? When Donald Trump is gone, because he's 78 years old and a double cheeseburger away from a Simpsons prophecy, okay, from fulfilling that. All right. Yeah. So, like, where do they go? I mean, he's already cucked the Republican Party to a point where I think that there's going to be a serious crisis once he is gone, one way or the other, you know, whether or not, you know, it's going out feet first or stepping down, you know, at the end of his second term, like we hope he will do. What's going to happen? Who's going to take over that mantle? And I have no idea.
Yeah, the Republican Party has really boxed themselves in, and I think they know, the party insiders and leadership, they know they've absolutely screwed themselves because of the fact that they've surrendered even long-held ideologies in politics to whatever the whims of Donald Trump are. The Greenland thing and Panama and Canada being the 51st state. These are not serious policy proposals or ideas that would have been put forward by anyone except for the Big Mac sauce addled brain of Donald Trump. So there really is nobody. I've talked about Donald Trump is certainly not. I don't think he's going to survive this term. He's going to die. And I don't mean at the hands of some steely-eyed assassin. I mean at the hands of his own shitty diet and just terribleness. He's not long for the world. So I think the country will be better with a President J.D. Vance than a Donald Trump, only because you're going to have Donald Trump commands the minds of the cult.
Mm-hmm.
And when he dies, the cult dies with it. They're not going to all of a sudden say, oh, unless Donald Trump Jr. starts, putting down the mirror aligned with his drug of choice. The cult's going to die, and J.D. Vance doesn't have the wherewithal or the star power or the cult of personality to pick up that mantle and be a wily Svengali-like holder of their attention. They're going to look elsewhere.
Right. And, look, those are all a bunch of great points. I agree in the fact that J.D. Vance, I mean, once Donald Trump is gone, you're right. There's going to be nobody to hold that coalition together. And so it is being held together by a sheer force of personality. Okay. And you're right. It is the cult. But I want to go to the other side for a second here. Okay. We know that the Republicans, they're probably going to fall apart after Trump. But what about the Democrats? Does that gives them an opening, right? But I am concerned that the Democrats might not be able to get their shit together and actually field a progressive candidate that can bring back the working class, working people of all colors, by the way, back into the party. So, how are they going to, appeal to working class Latinos and working class white people and working class black people, everybody who works for a living and is expecting the government to do something to help take that power away from the billionaire class that has basically taken our political system hostage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Elon Musk giving $250 million and basically buying his way into office. What are the Democrats going to do? And, where is the Democratic leadership? I mean, I don't see any to speak of. In fact, I want to show you here real quick a video of House, was the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries.
I'm trying to figure out what leverage we actually have. What leverage do we have? They control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. It's their government. What leverage do we have?
Jesse, what leverage do we have?
Yeah. Well, look, earlier you were postulating a question of what should we do, or what will they do? What should we do? Those are two entirely separate questions.
Yeah.
What should they do? I can answer unequivocally. I don't know what they're due, but if past performance is indicative of future results, they're likely going to try to appeal to a center-right or center audience to try to get elected, when all of the data relative to elections across the country in disparate congressional districts all across the country shows that progressive policies are popular even among Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
If you call them progressive policies, they poo-poo it because that word is so associated with AOC and Katie Porter, Jasmine Crockett, and so many others who do good work in for the country. But Medicare for all and all of these other policies, people hate our healthcare system. Even Republicans hate our healthcare system. So what they will do, I don't know. What they should do is double down on class solidarity and convince the American people that our economic standpoint, the way forward is using the government to better the lives of people, is giving people the opportunity, giving people the bootstraps to pull themselves up by through social programs, through entitlement programs, through policies and tax policy that actually gives people the leg up, instead of Elon Musk giving him the fucking leg up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can speak like an adult here, but and that's what they're doing. Democrats, look, you got Nancy Pelosi, God bless her, but there's not a stock trade she hasn't just salivated over. We need to get away from the old way of doing politics with our gerontocracy, with our septuagenarians and octogenarian members of Congress, our cancer victims. And I'm a former cancer patient, survived cancer 2 years ago. So I can talk about my people And Jerry Connolly, look, man, I don't know what we're doing here. We have vital, talented, passionate people like AOC and others in the party who want to take the mantle, who are champing at the bit for leadership. And instead, what do? We allow these septuagenarians to languish in the former way of doing things. My good friend across the aisle.
Yeah.
In that same clip that you just played from Hakeem Jeffries, he also talks about we need to find common ground and work with Republicans where we can. No, the fuck we don't. No, we don't. If you want to be the minority party, be the minority party. If you want to be the opposition party, it's a whole different thing entirely. And I'm on the other side of that. I think we should be the opposition.
Yeah. Republicans have already shown us what an opposition party looks like.
Yes.
With their unprecedented obstruction that they had under Mitch McConnell. And so, when you say that there's really nothing that we can do, well, it's funny because they said that when they had the majority, slim majority, sure. They had the majority. Oh, there's nothing we can do. The parliamentarian. So we can't, raise your wages. Oh, we can't do this. We can't do that.
That, my friend, is a fantastic point. Is when the roles are reversed, you don't hear Mitch McConnell saying, oh, I'm in the minority. What leverage do I have?
Right.
You didn't hear Kevin McCarthy as the minority leader say, oh, well, Democrats have this strong mandate from the people. They didn't do that. They obstructed, they delayed, and they denied progress. And Democrats, for the sake of decency or whatever, just laid down and took it.
And look, to be absolutely fair, because we're fair on this. It is easier to destroy and block and obstruct than it is to build things, right?
Sure.
And a lot of what Democrats want to do, again, to be super fair, is building programs that help people, right? And so, having policies passed that help average working people. Republicans don't want that. And it's for them, it is easy, very easy to block. But now the roles are reversed and Republicans have the levers of power that they're using to destroy. You should have a strong Democratic Party that says, no, we're not going to let you roll over us. We're going to exercise every single ability that we have as the minority party to fight back against this Trump, Musk takeover, tech bro fascist oligarchy that we are stuck in.
Yeah, I think AOC said it pretty poignantly last night on the Capitol Plaza to Manu Raja from CNN, where she's like, look, this is what we do. This is how we resist this. So we absolutely do have leverage. And she explained what we should do. But the problem for me with it is that, like, I have no problem shutting down this government because this government is damaging. It's dangerous. It is broken. And if we can stop that, look, I'm not one of those Democrats that let's find common ground where we can and we can agree. But look, I hope Donald Trump wins because if he's successful, the country's successful. No, it's not. If Donald Trump's agenda is successful, Americans will be hurt. Yep. The richest 1% of all of us will just languish in more wealth. They will turn their giant pile of money into an even larger pile of money, while people in the middle class, the working poor, they will get absolutely screwed. So I'm here to slow and stop every single win for Donald Trump because none of it is good for the country. Absolutely.
But just one final point here. So I think we can both agree that what we're seeing here with that lack of an endorsement for J.D. Vance and the lack of leadership on the Democratic side is that we have a crisis in both parties, a crisis of leadership, a crisis of faith in the political parties. And that's not good. And so post-Trump, this crisis is only going to, in my opinion, get worse.
Yeah, unfortunately, I agree until Democrats lose the old way of dealing with these things and start actually fighting back and not, wasting so much time trying to find common ground.
That's right. All right. So why don't we move on to the next one? That was a fun segment. Yeah, but where we both got pretty super serious. That's what we're doing here. We're having fun, but it's super
I
serious.
don't know that I like to be considered serious. I think I like, yeah, he's a pretty fun guy. But you know what? When you're in a hellscape, you got to deal with the hell. You got to deal with reality on reality's terms, and I think that's what we're doing.
Exactly. Now, speaking of the opposite of reality, we have a interview. President Donald Trump recently made an awkward admission during an interview, and it has to do with woke.
Why do you want to be chairman of the Kennedy Center Board?
Because I want to make sure it runs properly. We don't need woke at the Kennedy Center. We don't need, some of the shows were terrible. They're a disgrace that they were even put on. So I'll be there until such time as it gets to be running right.
Have you seen any shows there? How do you know they're terrible?
I didn't go. No, I got reports it was so bad I didn't want to go. There was nothing I wanted to see. Thank you very much, everybody.
The woke
mob.
What I love is finally a journalist is actually asking the poignant follow-up question. Obviously, why did you want to do this? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, the terrible. It's a disgrace. Whatever nonsense he spews out of the hole underneath his nose. But then the appropriate follow-up, the natural follow-up that everybody is like, please ask it is, oh, what have you seen any of the shows? Have you ever been to the Kennedy Center? Nah, I just know they're terrible. Just through osmosis, I get it. It's what an embarrassment. One, for the American people, we need to stop electing stupid people to high office. But I mean, Donald Trump, just cringe-worthy, every other word that comes out of his mouth.
Yeah, it's I love the admission of like, well, I didn't see it, but I heard from so many people about how terrible and how woke it is. It's the wokers.
What could be woke at the Kennedy Center? I mean, the last time I was at the Kennedy Center was late last year. I saw Norah Jones. Is Norah Jones in concert woke? We had tickets and then got COVID back in 2022 to Mark Maron at the Kennedy Center. I live in Washington, D.C., for those who are like, why is he talking about the Kennedy Center so much? But it's not some festival of woke. It's comedy shows. It's music concerts. It's not like symposiums on DEI, which would be fine if it was, but it's everything they don't like is woke. Everything they don't like is scary. Oh,
DEI.
It's weird and gross and stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, I think, I got to say that the main thing that really makes something woke is if it involves a black person.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So if anything at the Kennedy Center involves a black person, immediately it's woke. I got reports of how woke it was because there was a black person involved. It must be DEI. And so,
well, I don't know if you know, but there are too many black people in music. That's why we need to shut down the Kennedy Center. Too many black people on the Philadelphia Eagles. That's why he went for Kansas City. Thank God that went the way it did. Donald Trump, just an absolute curse of a human being. It is not even subtle racism.
Right.
The battle against DEI. I mean, they're now going after companies with not civil penalties, criminal penalties against companies who use DEI policies relative to their own private company hiring practices. They're right now canceling events at like prestigious black engineering gatherings to recruit people into the military because they're black. They're avoiding highly qualified people because they're black. So it's not about finding the most qualified and capable people. It's about not hiring black folks. It's plainly, flatly what it is. It's not hyperbole to say so.
Republican Party's racist.
I mean, it's pretty simple. Okay. Yeah. And I know people get mad when you point out that a spade is a spade, but what else do you call it? They're not actually looking for the best people. No, in fact, the reason that they have, DEI hirings in a lot of places is so that you actually do pick a qualified candidate and not your, fail son brother that, happens to be white and can't really get a job anywhere else, doesn't really have the qualifications, but you want to pick him anyway because, God, you feel sad for the little guy. He's not going to amount to anything. You gotta give him that job.
I have for a long time talked about the Republican Party, labeling them the largest, most effective white supremacy organization on the planet. I stand by that. I don't think that there's any way to push back against the facts and the logic and the history of the Republican Party and what we've seen over the course of so many decades. And this is just another element of it.
Yeah. They'll
another audio little drop you need to get is Bobby Jindal from the former Louisiana governor, who said, we need to stop being the stupid party. That would be a good one for you, Jeff.
That is a good one. Unfortunately, they have fully embraced being the stupit party. I mean, like this is how we're running the government now. Like, I don't know. Some people told me that it was woke. And so I decided to go and take ownership. I'm making decisions based on what other people are saying that might be probably just random trolls on X/Twitter. Okay. Random racist trolls, by the way. And so, I might know.
I was going to say,
not know what I'm talking about, but I'm still going to make decisions based on it.
It's not quite accurate to just call them trolls when it's straight up Nazified. I mean, I'm inactive on Twitter. My account is still there. I don't want somebody to steal my username and then start acting like they're me. But Twitter is it's an anti-woke nightmare. It is absolutely just Nazis run amok there. So
it is quite the cesspool. And what Elon Musk and Trump are doing are extending that cesspool into, this is how we're running our government. We're going to run our government just like I'm running X/Twitter. And so, including the Nazification. Okay, we're going to ramp that up. And also ramp up the disinformation, misinformation that comes from secondhand sources. I mean, he's posting all this Doge stuff, right, about supposed fraud that's in the government, and generally at least half the time, it's just like, oh, we're feeding kids. Oh, that's the corruption that we're finding. Corruption. The word corruption is just being like used as a way of saying this is something that I don't like, and that also correlates with how they use woke. Is, well, if it's something that I don't like, then it must be woke.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I didn't think of it that way, but that's brilliant because it's exactly what they've done with every single thing. Mm-hmm. It used to be like patriotism. If you do something I don't like, you're unpatriotic. You hate the country. And then it was politically correct was the thing. And then it was CRT, and then it was woke, and now it's corrupt. Like it's zero corruption. In fact, if you want to destabilize the world, USAID is a minuscule pittance of a budget to keep us out of future problems. They're looking at the right now. We don't want to spend money on that. If you can spend a few $100,000 on this thing now, it saves you in the long run of military invasions or terror attacks coming to the homeland, where you're going to end up spending billions, if not hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars, like what took place with our multiple Iraq wars.
Right. But, when it comes to saving money, there's a reason that Musk and Trump are not looking at one of the biggest wastes of money right now, and that would be military spending, the military industrial complex. Yeah. And so they're not looking at that. I mean, they failed seven straight audits. Okay. Where we don't know where the money's going. And they're just going to continue dumping more and more money into that military industrial complex for those, I guess, future wars that will probably end up being. I mean, Trump earlier today talked about how we're going to come in and we are going to take Gaza. We don't. No, that's no. We don't want to do that. Yeah. Why do you want to take Gaza? I thought you were supposed to be the anti-war president. But like everything, it just happens to be not true.
And it's not just take Gaza. I want to use accurate language when Donald Trump talks about it. He wants to own and develop. I mean, it really is a real estate deal in his mind.
Gaza
I don't know how he thinks he's going to own. America doesn't own the state of Oklahoma. It's not an ownership proposition here, but that's the way Donald Trump's mind works. That's the way all these billionaires' minds work. That's exactly how Elon Musk's mind works. So they're going to go with that particular framing of it.
And unfortunately, like I said, this is how the government is running under Trump and Musk.
Yeah,
it's a disaster,
to say the least.
Speaking of disaster, let's go to the funding freeze. So let's talk about that and how we are screwing over states.
Yeah,
fun times. President Donald Trump is continuing to defy the judicial branch, courts, over his freeze of federal funding that was supposed to be put on hold, but it turns out that no, there's still a federal funding freeze because he's ignoring the courts. I mean, on Monday, John J. McConnell Jr., which is kind of funny. He's another McConnell. I wonder if there's a relation there. But hey, made a good ruling. Ruled that the Trump administration had violated the restraining order by keeping these funds frozen. So previously, he had put in a restraining order on that and said you can't just unilaterally go in and freeze all the funding to programs that you don't like. And still, Trump's like, yeah, but make me continue to fund these programs. Now, McConnell wrote in his ruling that there was evidence that the Trump administration has continued to improperly freeze federal funds and refused to resume disbursement of appropriated federal funding. So this is Congress's funding that they had already passed, set aside for these programs that Trump said, I don't like it, or I don't understand it, which is it's probably both. Or a mixture of I don't understand it, I don't like it, so I'm going to freeze it completely, even though that a lot of the spending, again, it's already congressionally approved, and a lot of it is helping people in states that voted for him, his own voters. And so this is where we're at. I mean, you've got states with Medicaid portals that went offline. You've got Head Start facilities nationwide that have shut down. It's been a complete disaster all across the country, both red states and blue states. And look, Jesse, you've talked about this, so I want to ask you, is this really just is it about the cruelty?
Well, I mean, the cruelty is always the point with the Republican Party. There are two things that really fully come to mind, and that is, I have one of these on my desk at all times. The Constitution. It's the same Constitution that these yokels pull out of their pockets and wave around. I'm a patriot. I'm a constitutional purist. When they really violated every turn, these same people who have raised their right hand and swore to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that either don't know what's in the document or they just don't give a shit because they're violating it at every turn, which, by the way, was outlined in the 900 plus pages of Project 2025 from the get-go. So it's a basic civics lesson that's not being really communicated to the American people. Right. Yes, the president has the ability to stop funding before it even starts. The Congress passes legislation for funding, which starts in the House of Representatives, moves on to the Senate. If they both agree, they sign a bill. I know it's like, I'm just a bill, it's like a 70s cartoon here. They send it to the President of the United States, who signs it. When that bill is signed, that appropriation bill is signed, it becomes a law. So if a new president comes in, he or she can't just erase what was done by a previous Congress and a previous president. What they need to do is do their own funding, have the House and the Senate and send it. They're flagrantly violating the law. They're flagrantly violating the Constitution. And then when a judge says, hey, fuckers, you're violating the law and you're violating the Constitution, they're ignoring the federal judge. It is a usurpation of the Constitution. It's a power grab. It's giving Donald Trump some kind of monarchical king-like power that he does not possess. We are in the midst of a constitutional crisis.
Right. And you mentioned Project 2025, OMB director Russell Vought. Okay. This is Project 2025. It's not something that was going to, that's off in the future. It is currently happening now. And that legal theory of the president being able to freeze whatever spending that he doesn't like, that's impoundment. And Russell Vought is a huge believer of in impoundment. And so, he's doing that. They're doing Project 2025. I know there are some people out there that were like, he's not going to do Project 2025. He's never even heard of it. But he doesn't even agree with it. He said it was terrible. Really? You're going to believe the guy that lied 30,000 times during his first, administration and has lied countless times since? Sure. Let's believe that guy.
I don't want to besmirch someone, but I think it was Nora O'Donnell, the journalist, who, when asked about this, said, well, as you know, Donald Trump said he does not know anything about Project 2025 and he's not going to put it into action. It was the media, the mainstream media, missing the moment time and time again during the campaign, giving Donald Trump either cover or unduly giving him the benefit of the doubt. That it largely is why we're in this problem, because people who don't watch enough news, who don't pay attention, who haven't paid attention to the character of Donald Trump, it gave them cover to say, well, yeah, he says he doesn't know anything about it, when the rest of us knew. The rest of us were sounding off about it. This is why what you do, Jeff, is very important. The independent media space needs to be supported through your clicks, through your shares, through your comments, through your likes, through your support, whether that be on Patreon or channel membership or whatever. You need to support Jeff and the work here, because
Thank you.
It's through your support, our channels grow. And well, I'll just speak for you, Jeff, and you're able to reach a larger segment of the audience to avoid what happened, to avoid, if it was Nora O'Donnell, I don't really remember, that happening again. It's maddening. And I know I'm an aggressive character. I think it's the Marine Corps that maybe they didn't do it to me, but we need to fight, and we need fighters more now than ever. And it's through independent media and the audiences that we reach that's going to happen, I think.
No, absolutely. Yeah, we absolutely do need fighters. Speaking of people who are not fighters, Congress. Isn't it funny that Congress on the Republican side is just laying down and letting the executive branch usurp their powers, just taking it? I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, you have a job, okay? Yeah. Why are you not doing your job? I mean, I with the anemic Democratic Party right now, I have no doubt that they probably could get a bill through to do a lot of the stuff that they plan on doing anyway, defunding a lot of things, changing the policy, priorities of the country, which has happened. They could get something through Congress, and they could get it through Trump signing it into law. They could do it the legal way. So this is just nothing more than a power grab. Yeah, a power grab for the executive branch. And that is, again, a major piece of Project 2025. It's also a major piece of what Donald Trump's always wanted to do. And what Republicans have always wanted is to have daddy come home and take over and, start being basically a dictator.
It is strange to me that these people who have again screamed and yelled about the Constitution and the separation of powers and what the proper role of the executive is, and that Congress, that we have full authority, Biden's overstepping, he's ignoring Congress, and then when Donald Trump gets into office, they just bend the knee, kiss the ring. Again, which ring, I don't know, but it's cowardice. It's bizarre to me.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have been doing this long enough to remember the, constant Fox News King Obama segments where they would always go after President Obama. Oh, he made an executive order. What king? The dictator. Yeah. And now they're just doing, again, it just really kind of shows you how a lot of the things that they do or talk about is just, it's I mean, projection It's projection.
Oh yeah. Well, it's also, everything. Obama golfs too much.
Yep.
Donald Trump doesn't golf enough. Executive orders are bad. Trump executive orders are the only way to get anything done in government, even when you have a Republican House and a Republican Senate. It's just Donald Trump. Give him king-like powers. He's the God King. He's the cult leader. He's the one who has to make all the decision and all the moves, and we'll just sit back and approve as it happens. It's gross.
It is. And absolutely un-American, by the way.
Well, certainly unconstitutional, which again, you can't give any credence or the benefit of the doubt to Republicans on their love and loyalty and fealty to the Constitution, because they're watching Donald Trump destroy it and do what he said he wanted to do, which was terminate the Constitution, all rules and regulations and articles up to and including the Constitution of the United States. And they're standing back and standing by as he does it.
Yeah, I mean, when he said, I want to be a dictator on day one, well, it wasn't just day one. It's the whole time.
Yeah.
The whole time. All right. Why don't we move on after I get a drink? All this talking, makes you thirsty.
You're giving me a moment here. I'll cheers. Cheers, Jeff.
Marco Rubio. All right, so let's move on to the next segment here, and that's Social Security. Very important. Billionaire Elon Musk is coming for Social Security. On his not-so-fied website, X, he claims that there is widespread fraud that is taking place in the payment of what he considers to be federal entitlements, which, again, Social Security is a earned benefit, okay? But which you are entitled to because you pay into the system. But he says, no, there are people that haven't paid anything that are getting out so much money. In fact, Musk wrote on February 11th, at this point, I'm 100% certain that the magnitude of the fraud in the federal entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, disability, etc., exceeds the combined sum of every private scam you've ever heard by far. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, listen. Let me say this before you move on, because I don't want to forget the point. I just wrote it down. Is there are mechanisms in place in the Constitution and statutorily to combat fraud, waste, and abuse. Like there, when you that's what congressional oversight is for. That's what these committees are for. That's what James Comer, as chairman of the Oversight Committee for so many years, that's what his duty was. But instead of looking at fraud, waste, and abuse that was apparently so rampant, so public, so in your face, instead of looking at that, which isn't in your, it's not a thing. Sure, there's some fraud on isolated levels, but nothing that's going to sway the budget. Not even a rounding error it would come up as. But instead of investigating that, they wanted to look at Hunter Biden's dick and talk about his laptop and the Biden crime family, things that didn't exist, as a way to assist Donald Trump in his election, in his attempt to be president again. That's what it was about.
But Jesse, I mean, he pardoned a bunch of people, though. Joe Biden did. So, I mean, obviously there must have been something there, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And doesn't have anything to do with the fact that Trump kept talking about going on a revenge tour.
Yeah.
And then doing a revenge tour on the people that he could do revenge on.
Yeah, that whole thing. I don't even get into the morass about the pardon thing. Yeah. Because Donald Trump pardoned Rick Gates and Paul Manafort and Roger Stone and Jared Kushner's dad, and you can just secure the nonsense, as we used to say in the Marine Corps. Just secure that BS, because it's just a whataboutism. All presidents make pardons. In this case, I do believe the Joe Biden pardons were absolutely justified because of the fact, the promises of revenge, the promises of retribution, the promises to weaponize the Department of Justice against Tony Fauci, Dr. Fauci, someone who should go down in history along the lines of like Norman Borlaug, who saved 1 billion lives through engineering different types of rice and grain so it doesn't fall over in the wind or in the rain. He saved millions of lives, both in the AIDS epidemic, but also COVID and other communicable diseases. So the Republicans can just go away. Pick your invective.
These are the people who want to drink raw milk now.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's going to be some Darwin Awards being handed out here soon for the raw milk drinkers.
It's the one advantage of a Robert F. Kennedy HHS, and that's that brainworms for everybody. Just
for everyone.
If Social Security is included, you're going to also get your daily allowance or your monthly allotment of brainworms for yourself.
Oof. Oh boy. Can't wait. Put that in a campaign right there. Brainworms for everyone. Instead of a chicken in every pot, it's a brainworm in every skull.
Right. That's right.
Gotta love that.
A chicken in every pot, a car in every garage, and a brainworm for every skull.
Right up in there. But anyway, let's get back to the Social Security, right? And not only that, but all the different programs that he mentioned. Because welfare fraud, which is a throwback pretty much to the welfare queens, and we all know where that came from.
Yeah.
Less than 1.5% of all welfare recipients are estimated to commit fraud. So rounding error, okay, incredibly rare. And as far as SNAP, there are stories of people like, that sell their food stamps, because whenever you talk about that, there's always somebody that brings that up. Oh, they're selling their food stamps, right? Well, that's because there's a lot of things that food stamps will not allow you to buy. And so, hot food, for example, they won't let you do that. And then of course some will, use things like cigarettes or whatever like that. That sucks. But at the same time, if they're selling those, then they're cutting back on their own budget for healthy food, right? Healthier meals. And so,
listen, it doesn't even, I don't even know that it's appropriate. That's a really harsh word because I'm not shitting on what you're saying, but it's just the fraud of these types happens in such minuscule numbers,
right,
that it doesn't even doesn't even register on a budget. It's 0.000 whatever percent of people sell food stamps for cigarettes.
Right.
The vast majority of these types of entitlement benefits for SNAP and food is feeding children. These are kids who are going to be better off in school, perform better, who will then do better in life, in their life outcomes for income as taxpayers to fund the government. This, from an economic standpoint, is just a no-brainer that Republicans, because it impacts Black people, it impacts brown people. Oh, shudder to think a poor person might have a slightly easier life. That's not what they want. Also, Elon Musk, he's not going to be collecting Social Security, Mr. Almost a trillionaire. So GTFO.
Yeah, it's really about, stopping these programs so they can create wage slaves. I mean, very low paid wage slaves at jobs that, by the way, really don't even exist, which if there's large unemployment, that's going to drive down wages because it's going to be such a demand for jobs. I mean, it's already laid off a huge percentage of the federal workforce. So those unemployment numbers are going to suck. And then, of course, you have private industry that are also, that's also laying off people, and that's going to look bad. But all of that is a win for them because, well, if you have more desperate people outside of the workforce who can't get jobs, we're going to lower wages, going to save our buddies, our friends, lots and lots of cash. And that's ultimately who we work for, is the wealthiest Americans.
Yeah, I think there's also an element of this of keeping people desperate and focused on survival so they don't rise up and understand really the nuances of class solidarity here. And that they know that if you can keep people, broke and hungry, they're going to be focused on what they're going to eat next and not on the larger systemic issues that led them to be more entrenched in the situation they find themselves. Exactly. And Republicans know that better than maybe anybody, which is why, again, coming back to it, we need a robust opposition party to fight back against this nonsense.
That's right. Now, Musk, getting back to him, right? He said without any evidence, of course, that there was currently over $100 billion per year of entitlement payments to individuals without social security numbers or even a temporary ID number. If accurate, this is extremely suspicious. When
There's
I
the
asked
rub.
if anyone at Treasury had a rough guess for what percentage of that number is unequivocal and obvious fraud, the consensus in the room was that about half, or $50 billion a year, or $1 billion a week. This is utterly insane and must be addressed immediately. Well, who did he ask? Big Balls?
Big Balls. Big Balls, who's hired back now.
Yeah.
His balls must be so big that they just must. They had to give him another position. I think he's with the State Department now.
Yeah.
Big Balls.
Yeah, Big Balls. And
Does your audience know who Big Balls is? Because I don't think mine would know.
I'm pretty sure I've talked about him before. I do like to throw in the occasional Musk Wunderkind Big Balls reference. So, but for some reason I'm blanking on his name, and I should know it. He's not the guy who was actually caught for posting racist posts that was fired and then rehired back. This guy, Big Balls, was one of the people who had apparently given information from a company, right, that he had worked for to competitors or something.
Yeah, he maintained access to a server and then broke the policies afterward. Yeah.
And this guy's only 19 years old too. And
he's the as Brittany Page describes him, the underdeveloped frontal cortex that is a high school graduate who now has access to your payment data, your treasury data, your Medicaid and Medicare records.
Mm-hmm.
This high schooler who has shown a pattern of reckless behavior surrounding personal, private, sensitive, confidential information. So great, good times.
Yeah, it's fun, awesome. And they have no idea what they're looking at. And so obviously the first thing that you do when you don't know what you're looking at is to claim fraud.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're doing. Again, we're not saying that fraud doesn't exist, right? And nowhere are we saying that it's not, but it is a minuscule amount. I mean, the Treasury announced in 2024 that it recovered $4 billion in fraudulent payments. It sounds like a lot, except that no, it's not. And they recovered that money, and a lot of it, probably from mistakes, because there is human error, and some, I think, are from people who have died, and that
also again, there's a mechanism in place statutorily to deal with fraud, waste, and abuse, because Congress has an oversight role in this that they've abdicated to Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who is outside of the arm of oversight. He hasn't been appointed or vetted under Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution with the advice and consent of the Senate. He's just a rando that Donald Trump has all the confidence in the world.
Yeah, and that's not good. That's not good. But even with all that, again, the minuscule amounts of fraud, way below the $50 billion alleged by Elon Musk. Way below. And so, again, it just comes down to, I don't know what I'm talking about. And I don't like that poor people are getting money. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, I think personally that Musk is preparing to loot the Treasury under the guise of fraud, of stopping fraud, and maybe even is trying to route federal payments through his own platform. And he has talked about making X the everything platform, which includes banking.
Yeah,
it's going to make him a lot of money.
Well, the other thing, look, I don't have the lie sandwich tweet that you just read that was like, he makes a claim and then he gives it a little bit of wiggle room, if true, and then continues in the tweet to tell more certain statements that are just lies. If it's an if true, then it's, this is what we think. Bring us the proof of it. Instead, it's just statements made on Twitter.
Basically, but that's all they have is statements made on Twitter. Some rando told me this, or I got this from Big Balls, who has doesn't really have anything, any idea what he's talking about because he's only 19 years old and didn't even graduate from college. Well, I mean, I would say those sources are a bit dubious.
Well, imagine where you were when you were 19 years old.
Oh.
What fulsome or lack thereof understanding of our world and the government and the complex payment systems of Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and entitlement programs. At 19, I was thinking about getting off work in the Marine Corps to go get a beer.
Right.
This kid is not, obviously, he's not some super intellect. He goes by big balls online. He's exactly what every 19-year-old is, not some wonderkin who should be in charge of or have access to the most sensitive areas of our government to give Elon Musk even more power to understand the financial networks of our Treasury Department.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's entirely a measure of intelligence. It's also experience, familiarity.
Life experience. Yes.
Yeah. And familiarity with the systems, right? Yeah. I don't think this is something, this is something that is incredibly complicated, and it's not something you could do a once over on, in a 20-minute, here's how you do this, lecture, have at it.
Yeah, he's big balls. He's not Doogie Howser.
Right.
Period.
I think we'll leave it at that. All right. Why don't we get to the last story here that I have ready for you? And this is we're gonna switch gears a little bit and go into First Amendment territory. Yeah.
I love
it.
A
Black South Carolina teen recently settled a lawsuit with her school district for an alleged physical assault. So she was allegedly assaulted by a teacher because she did not recite the Pledge of Allegiance. According to the lawsuit, then 15-year-old freshman Marissa Barnwell, an honor roll student at River Bluff High School, was walking to class, on November 29th, 2022, when the pledge began playing over the school's intercom. Now, South Carolina law requires the schools to play the pledge, but you don't have to participate. The law says you don't have to participate if you don't want to. You can't be penalized for failing to participate, but it is there. So if you want to, I guess. But apparently this teacher was like, no, you will participate. Even though you're not in class, you are walking to class. Doesn't matter. I'm going to make you participate.
We need a more robust civics education program in this country for teachers, for adults to understand the ramifications of their actions related to Congress shall make no law about the establishment of religion or abridging the freedom of speech. There's a religious exemption for many people. If you grow up with a Jehovah's Witness, those kids wouldn't even stand up during the Pledge of Allegiance, and good for them. Who cares? Right. I served in the United States Marine Corps for many years. I am a patriot. I love this country. I want this country to be the best that it can be. I don't say the Pledge of Allegiance, and not for religious reasons. It's because I feel weird, and I pledge allegiance to the flag, to a piece of cloth. I don't do that. So I guess I should have been assaulted too by this goon of a teacher putting their hands ostensibly on an honor student for not making a pledge of allegiance to a piece of cloth. Gross, wildly unconstitutional, and there should be firings and prosecutions as a result if found guilty by a jury of their peers.
Well, so far, there hasn't been any of that. There was a lawsuit, and that lawsuit has been settled by the school, but currently there has been no, announcement that they did anything wrong, no disciplinary action towards that teacher. I mean, this is according to the lawsuit. While Marissa was walking to class, the defendant, Nicole Livingston, was a special education teacher, violated her constitutional rights by yelling and demanding that Marissa stop walking and physically assaulting her by pushing her against the wall and forcefully touching her in an unwanted way without consent so that she would stop walking in recognition of the Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of silence that was announced at the conclusion of the pledge. So if that's not bad enough, it actually gets a little bit worse. Livingston then took Marissa to the principal's office, okay, where she got a stern talking to, apparently. Now, the principal, Jacob Smith, said, don't worry, we're going to review the footage and see what's going on, and then whatever. Here, have a snack and go back to class, all right? Oh, no, parents, we're not going to get the parents involved. By the way, while you're here, are you a patriot? Do you consider yourself a patriotic American?
Wow.
Because you better. Okay. But anyway, just go ahead and go back to class. No problem.
I'm struggling. I've read again. I know I'm banging out the Constitution constantly here. It is unusual. I can't find the compulsory patriotism article within the confines of Article 1, 2, or 3 of the Constitution of the United States. It's weird that it's not there. You would think if it was so important to our founders and our framers, they would have included that.
Well, do you have the Republican Constitution, which basically is only involves the Second Amendment in there, and
That's
then
right.
some fluff about how you must be completely patriotic to and swear fealty to Donald Trump and the Republican Party, or else you are a commie.
It's the same party, by the way, that violates U.S. code. Flag code is within. It's not a criminal code, but it's in the U.S. code. Yeah. You've got Pete Hegseth with this little American flag. It violates the flag code. You don't wear it as clothing or put it on napkins or anything that's disposable. There are very sacred ways in which you deal with the flag according to the U.S. code. And Republicans, they let Donald Trump slime up and sweat all over it and molest the flag constantly. It's all performative. It's masturbatory patriotism.
Yep.
It's fake patriotism on the part of Republicans day after motherfucking day. Gross.
It is, especially when some of those articles of clothing happen to be underwear.
Right. Also, just to get back to the more serious aspect of this is a child. This is a child who was walking while it was playing over the intercom. We don't even know if it was abjectly, overtly disrespectful. It doesn't matter if it was, but it's just a kid who's an honor roll student going to class. Lay off with your weird, cultish, slavish understanding of what patriotism is and isn't. I mean, God,
right. Oh, but it gets worse.
Oh, okay. Man.
Remember, she's a black student. Okay.
Yeah.
And so she's thinking there's got to be a racial component because there were other people in the hallway walking
and it's
to
also
their class that did
it's
not
also
stop.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 73% of the school, the students in that school are white students. And Marissa believes that she was singled out because she was a black student. Now, what's funny is in a press conference last week, she did say that, hey, there was a reason that I didn't stop to do the pledge, that I never do the pledge. I haven't done it since I was a kid. And that's because we do not have liberty and justice for all. Okay. And this is a great illustration of how that is true in this country. Yeah. We do not.
Way to prove the point, teacher.
Yep.
Way to cement the reason that this kid doesn't do the pledge because no one has liberty or freedom, or at least many people don't. I mean, listen, we're not all free unless all of us are free. Nobody's free unless all of us are free. It's another example of Republicans showing their ass and leaning into the narrative that is absolutely true. This teacher, most undeniably, is a Trump-supporting Republican, a member of a party who, again, is the largest, most effective white supremacy organization on planet Earth. Ugh.
Yeah. Now, she had also said during the press conference that her other black friends had experienced similar feelings of racism over the years, but none so overt as being physically assaulted in the hallway for not saying the pledge. And so
it's the crime of wokeness.
yeah, it must be the wokes. That's
Yeah.
it. But again, she has not admitted of doing anything wrong. Apparently she doesn't work at that school anymore, and the school in itself has pretty much just shoved this under the rug, sweeping it under the rug, and not even putting out any press releases about it or anything, saying that we did something wrong, or we had someone here that did something wrong, and then the principal tried to kind of cover it up and ignore it, and this is why we have this settlement, and we are now going to try to respect our Black students, and any student who does not wish to do this, forced patriotism, as you had mentioned, which is kind of funny, because isn't the pledge the same thing that was created by someone who considered themselves a socialist? Is that the?
Oh, I don't know the history of it. I know we added under God in 1952 or 54 because the atheist communists.
Yep.
But listen, here's the issue that really drives home for me. And again, it's a basic elementary level civics lesson, is the problem with the First Amendment. Like when people are like, oh, it's my First Amendment right to say what I want to say at work, and you can't stop me, and blah, blah, blah. It's about the government telling you what you can and can't say. The teacher employed by the school district is a government employee, a representative of the government of that particular municipality or the state, controlling the speech of a child, of an American citizen. It's patently, obviously, on a basic, fundamental level, unconstitutional. There should be a civil rights lawsuit brought against this teacher and the school and everybody else who questioned the patriotism or lack thereof, which is perfectly legal to not be patriotic. Anyway, you're way to send me away very angry and pissed off, Jeff. Great. Good job, brother.
I'm pretty good at that. I've been known amongst my friends for slaughtering people's unicorns. So
yeah, well, you've done a great job.
Well, that said, there's a small, minuscule amount of justice here that you might make you feel a little bit better. As I mentioned before, the teacher no longer works at that school, and the school district itself is now having to pay the family, the Barnwells, $75,000. So in restitution, about $47,000 will be set aside for Marissa when she turns 18. So that'll be a nice little piece of having her, pay some student loans, basically.
Well, assist her with not being crushed under the weight of student loans. Hopefully. Yeah.
That's assuming, of course, we're still going to have a Department of Education by that time. We'll see. The rest, of course, will go towards the legal fees. And so at least they won't have that to worry about. But again, it would have been nice to have some sort of apology from the district. Some sort of acknowledgement that they did something wrong, that they had violated this child's civil rights. Okay. But instead of doing that, they ended up sweeping it under the rug. And that's why it's important to tell these stories and to, do these segments, because it's not just about getting mad. It is about saying that this is the way that they're going about violating civil rights in this country and doing forced patriotism. And I think getting that awareness of these things happening, especially to a member of a minority community, is helpful in trying to do something to prevent that from happening in the future, and to prevent the school from having to pay out, buku bucks for the actions of one of the teachers that was unacceptable.
Yeah, with school budgets being as tight as they are and beleaguered by budget cuts and everything else, especially in states like South Carolina, like North Carolina, like Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, this is not the time to start compulsory patriotism, because you're going to pay, and then you're going to be putting yourself in an even tighter spot good for this family and good for her.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I've got for you today. I want
That's
to thank
it.
you.
We're having such a great time.
I know,
Jeff.
right? Right? But we'll have to do it again then.
Yes.
So thank you, Jesse, for joining me on this show. Very, very special show. Why don't you tell the audience where they can find you if they don't already know, which they should.
Well, short of giving my home address,
Don't do that.
I can be found. Yeah, too many death threats from the Trump supporters.
Right.
I can be found right here on YouTube. The Dollemore Daily is the show I host daily with Dollemore. I'm on Blue Sky. Again, not active on Twitter anymore, but I'm at Dollemore just about everywhere else on Twitter or on social media. If you're into having a miserable time, your life being worse as a result of hanging around on social media, if you're already going to be there, that's where I am, at Dollemore, Instagram, everywhere else, TikTok. And then I also co-host a podcast with my lovely, talented, and scholarly co-host, Brittany Page, who also has her own channel. That's probably the place to send people. The Page Perspective, Brittany Page on YouTube. But we also host a podcast called I Doubt It Podcast, where it's a lot more buttoned up than it is on YouTube. And we talk about social justice issues. That's really the focus, both on YouTube, but also really any media we create. We try to lift people up and give people a fair shake. So
it's a great goal. Well, all right. Well, thank you again, Jesse, for joining me. Looking forward to doing this again. Really appreciate your input. Appreciate you being on the show. And thank you so much, everybody, for watching.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.